the Mo put in there.
Are we ready? Here's our- Good. Well, let's call the meeting to order. So we'll, I'll approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Anyone see any changes or anything that we might need? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approve any of approval of the March minutes.
I'll move.
Doug. Did anyone see any changes or anything? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. We have some public comment. Anyone? Are you here for public comment?
No, just to meet everybody.
Just to meet everybody? Okay. You don't have any online because we still
Are you
do
doing
that.
that, Chairman O'Connell?
Well, we'll have to decide here after we get moving if we're gonna do it that way or they have to come in, I guess.
There's no one
To be
online.
consistent with the full board, I guess we want to go that way. Each meeting is kind of how a rules of order. But there isn't anyone. Okay. So no public comment, all right. The disclosure comes when
Are we removing that
Thought we were
now?
removing that. Yeah, it will be.
that will be removed after
In
this one.
May,
Yep.
So the next one won't have that. We'll just have people will have to say that.
right.
All right. There's no other supervisors here today. On number 6, so we're good there. Now, committee business.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kim O'Connell as chairman.
I'll second it.
Done.
I'm gonna close nominations. You guys can have them ballot.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
So that doesn't change much, does it? Okay.
I make a motion to appoint Brad.
I'll second it.
Move to close nominations.
Unanimous ballot. So everybody in favor say aye. There.
Well, we were discussing last night that we didn't know who the chairman was, and I was sitting there thinking, we know exactly who the chairman is here.
Yeah, so here we go. Well, that,
Applesauce.
we did not have to change much, did we? So good. So who's doing our update on our parks, trails and dams?
All right.
All right, introduce yourself to everybody.
All right.
Oh,
For
gosh,
those of
there's
you that
nobody
don't
who-
know me, I'm Rod Polk. I'm the facility manager. So the parks right now, we're awaiting delivery of the new playground equipment for Dee Kennedy and Lotus. That's set to. I know, Brad, you're gonna be there.
I'm coming with my skid steer to help.
Yeah, that's
Are you
good.
taking the recycled ones? Are you taking the?
Yeah, that'll be the Clam Falls part.
Wait till we get to dam.
Oh, all right. So those are set to get delivered June 1, and we're hoping that by the end of June, sometime we get the install on those. Docks at all the county boat landings will start to get put in next week. On the trails side of things, we're still working on the Sterling expansion. We're getting ready to open bathrooms in the next couple of weeks on all our trails and parks and everything. Dams, Atlas kickoff meeting with Cedar Corporation is getting scheduled to happen in the next week or two. And then Clam Falls kickoff meeting with Ayers is scheduled for April 27th. And we did find out there was a beaver dam that came out, and that was the reason Clam Falls had such the water
Where was the beaver dam?
on W.
It's been out for.
That's just what I was told. That's why we had the big influx of water.
Yeah, I don't think so, but whatever. There was an influx of water. We proved the Clam Falls Dam can be overtopped, didn't we?
Yes. The
Once
entire
again.
building can be overtopped. Like quite a bit. And you can still walk on the sidewalk even though it's almost needy to get to open some more gates.
And there was no effect downstream from it also.
Not a lot. I know Ben had let Burnett County know that we were sending them quite a bit of water.
But nothing to the county line. So
No.
we're safe.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, smart.
Good morning, Mark Gossman here, Forester with the County. Today I'm here to talk to you about an access agreement to private lands. I will need a motion before I leave, I guess, associated with whether or not we're going to approve this, and also secondly, the fee. To tune you into, go to the big map. Just want to orientate you to where we're talking. So we're in the clear northwest part of the county, and where we're talking would be this private land right here, right off of 290th and 310th. There's a big wetland, common sterling land, Polk County Forest and Green here, just to get you orientated where we're talking. So basically, moving on, next map. So basically what's happening out here is the previous owner had an access agreement with the county. And essentially, where we're talking here is this kind of dotted alternating white and black line would be the access agreement that we're signing to this through the county forest right here and right here to this private piece right here. Again, an access agreement was in place with the previous owner. The property has sold. These access agreements are good for 9 years. And they're not transferable. This is not an easement. It's an access agreement that gives the private landowner right to their property. Included in the packet was the agreement. This isn't new to you. We did one of these a year ago. This form has changed a little bit because I was uncomfortable with these forms sitting in a folder in my office. So basically the form has changed from the aspect of they're going to be recorded. So when you do a search for similar to Jason's building permits, etc., they'll pop up just like that. Steve Geiger and Sally helped me make this kosher with what we're already doing in zoning. So this is all outlined in chapter 500 of the county forest plan. And in the county forest plan, the application fee is $500. In addition to the $500, it's 75 cents a linear foot. So basically, I'm going to make the recommendation that we waive the 75 cents per linear foot. We're not going to charge them that. You know, the distance associated with that, but charge them the $500 application fee plus the recording fee would be my recommendation. That's up for discussion. And again, I'll need a motion number 1 to grant this, if that's the decision, and number 2, what we're charging. So,
What was the per foot? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How many feet was it?
That'd be 1,400 feet.
It's almost a half mile.
Okay, so about 28.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself from this discussion.
You want to give a reason or not?
Sure, those are my sons.
Okay.
They're
Well, we want to know.
2 of my sons.
So can we go buck a foot? Go
ahead.
ahead.
All this time, good thing we had number 5 on here, so she knew.
Yeah.
Years ago, we talked about the easement, well, not an easement, it could have been an easement at that time, but the landowner would maintain.
So this is a common theme that's occurring, I guess. Banks are becoming more fussy. The mortgage lender, even if you pay cash, the title company likes to see guaranteed access. So we're kind of in a dilemma, I guess, where the guidance from the Attorney General is indicating that giving an easement on public land is not in the best interest of the public good. So we can't issue an easement unless you can demonstrate a greater public good to the whole community. So this is kind of the workaround, I guess, is granting that access, guaranteed access to them for a period of 9 years so that it doesn't become an easement. So this is the best we can do outside of the easement. Does that answer your question?
No, the easement's fine, but it's who maintains that?
It is up to the landowner to maintain it.
That's what we did, I think, before.
So that this gives them permission to keep it 16 feet wide. If there's a pothole, what have you, that's their baby. So this is kind of giving them that permission to do that and use it. Now, they can't run a power line over it, under it, or beside it. They can't run water. It just gives them a way with their vehicle to get from point A to point B.
Now, is there anything in here that they can't say it's private until it gets to their land? Because I think farther north in Burnett, I've ran into troubles.
Yeah,
People
so
mark that road as private, even though it goes through the forest that far. And they got 5 acres through 540s and they mark it private.
so if you look at number 10 on page 2 in the packet,
So number 10 that says that.
so throughout this document, basically, number 8 goes into the maintenance of the property. You know, it gives them the right to maintain it. And then number 10 specifically spells out that this is only good for 9 years. It is non-transferable. And the ownership remains that of Polk County. Hence, with this landowner change, a new buyer, hence that previous agreement becomes invalid because it's non-transferable. So if the new buyer sells this 40 to someone else, this agreement is null and void.
Is this a landlocked piece of property otherwise if we
Yes.
didn't give them?
Yes. So again, this is town of Sterling. Around here, this is all Polk County Forest right here. So without this access agreement, it is landlocked. And that's one of the things that I look at is I can tell them all right off the bat. But essentially, you're going through swamp and steep topography here. So there's a reasonability type of thing. They kind of have to prove that there is no other way. I guess our other option would be, you know, and it's a distance thing. We could grant it from here to here, but, you know, I'm trying to minimize distance. So, you know, as an alternative, we could make them push in a road right through here. However, if you've been to this site, the cell phone tower sits right here and you've got a steep hill. So there's some reasonability about it. So using the existing road that's already there is the most reasonable.
What kind of shape is the existing road? Not too bad.
It's a town of Sterling road. It's sand. It by no means is glamorous.
They can get in and out of it now, so they just have to upgrade
I
whatever.
mean, if they wanted to, for argument's sake for this agreement, if they wanted to gravel it, they could gravel it, but it would be at their expense.
Sure. Okay. Now, would you check to see if it needed culverts or not, if they tried to block any water? It doesn't need any.
The next thing here is kind of a,
Walk through. Okay.
there's kind of a bad hill right here that you go down. It's about 60 feet long that, you know, washes, I guess. So, that's what I know. So I guess for your consideration to say approve it. And then second of all would be the fee with my recommendation of waiving the fee for the length, but charging them the application fee of $500 for recording your time, my time, Sally's time, etc. plus the recording piece, so we'd be talking $530.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for or against, if you want to put the amount in also, or add the 75 cents. a foot, take it out.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve it for the $530 or whatever you said, minus and waive the 75 cents a foot.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now it's good.
Thank you.
Sharon voted no for the record.
Yeah.
She's the maintenance person. She's gonna make sure they do what they are supposed to do.
I haven't even seen it.
Can't get there from here. Jeez.
All right. Good morning. I'd like to start by taking and introducing Jacob Nadu. He started on Monday as our new zoning tech. So Jacob will be permitting and that up in the northwest corner of the county, as well as compliance in the northwest corner of the county. So he's got 1/4 of the county for permitting, 1/3 of the county, and that for compliance checks. Also, in that he'll be the main contact in that, or the point person in the front in that of our office. So he'll be dealing with a lot of our general office. So you want to tell him a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Jacob Nadu, I'm born and raised in Shakopee, Minnesota. Just moved out here, live in Turtle Lake. Being a fiance out there, so moved out here closer to her and her family. Went to school at UW Stout 4 years, graduated with a degree in environmental science, minors in chemistry, sustainability, and Spanish. And looking forward to this position here, getting me back to what I studied at school for. Before this, I worked as an account manager for a landscaping company out in Minnesota, and then also as a insurance producer for State Farm for a little bit.
You're Jake?
I was.
So he's gonna break our hearts.
Yeah.
He is a Viking fan. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're not
The
gonna-
hot seat's over.
Just for clarification, Jason, does northwest, does that mean he's covering Clam Falls?
Oh, you're northeast.
I'm northeast,
Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah.
You're safe.
Yeah.
You're safe.
So we'll be up in your area. So
Make sure he stays out of Clam Falls tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
all right, so we can jump into 10A. We've got 2 different ordinance amendments. As you guys remember, that in January 1st is when our 3 town zone towns took over the use zoning within the shoreland areas. And that's the main gist of both of these amendments that our towns are doing. They have travel trailer rules changing in St. Croix Falls. They've got some changes to their design guidelines and that for commercial buildings. And they've also got some boathouse rules that they're finally going with in that, or not finally in that, but they're adopting and that to match the county pretty much. And so that's the main summary of their ordinances. So is there any questions? Sure.
On St. Croix, Kim caught a glitch on page 3,
Okay.
about 1/3 of the way down. It says all structural alterations, additions, or repairs must comply with any current applicable Polk County ordinances. And that should be struck because
Well, it should be probably strong, because it doesn't apply.
so we have a town board meeting tonight, so I'll bring this to their attention at the town board. You see where,
Okay.
does that
Yep.
make sense? Just strike that?
Yes,
Okay.
does make sense.
So is this on the county board?
Yes,
Our
we'll
next-
have to go through with that. Usually they're placed on the consent
on
agenda.
the consent agenda. So should we maybe move this on and then put that line off?
I can just change the ordinance and that for this and that to go through the county board or the resolution. And I can put a provision in there and that to strike that.
Okay,
Mhm.
because I'm sure they'll take it out.
Yeah, they'll take it
They're
out
taking it
tonight, I'm sure they will.
Okay.
Good.
So they don't need to notify with you with, for anything then? Okay.
And then if you guys do a motion now and that just, and that include that provision.
Just will include that to take it out, that would take it out.
Okay. We're gonna have to review the ordinances from now on.
They did a better job than I did, yeah. I gotta say, I kind of go through these more for, ideas,
Yeah.
and that, than I do in that, whether or not the town should or shouldn't do it. Of
Yeah.
course, that's a policy thing,
Yeah.
so,
Well, you don't want to tell a town what to do until they ask. We return the favor.
Right, so I guess you're ready for a motion on that.
Let's do a motion on that one. On A,
I'll make a vote.
to move it and take that right out.
Yeah.
Okay, the Polk County zoning, okay. And then is there a second?
I'll second it.
Anyone see anything else?
Do I have to recuse myself from this too?
No. All those in favor then say aye.
I,
All right, now we'll move forward.
Next one is Town of Garfield Ordinance Amendment. The town also adopted rules for boat houses. They also made a change for solar farms or solar energy fields. They put it as a conditional use permit underneath their ag district. So kind of interesting change. But the biggest thing in that they did is they did a lot of changes and created text in that for a planned unit development. And this was in relationship to a project that is being proposed or is supposed to be starting here in the next couple of weeks in their town. It's right by the Balsam Branch on County Road C, and that's just to the east of there. Used to be the old Swanson Farm, and that has been sold. And they're talking about a planned unit development in there of up to 19 dwellings. And they're looking at building like 5 or 6 this year. Putting in basically kind of like a little municipal wastewater treatment system back in there. So that's a big development and that's fairly new. So they've been at the table and that with the town, and they've been working with the town on getting that ordinance to kind of fit their project, and that because the town never had a planned unit development before. And the town had 1 dwelling per parcel. And so all 19 of these new dwellings, they're like little cabins and that they're gonna rent out on Airbnb or VRBO, and that are all on 1 parcel. So anyway, so there's some exemptions in there for that. So that's what I've got on that one, unless you guys have questions.
Anything else? What? No pink on this one.
I know the town's attorney was involved with that, and then this developer's attorney was involved in creating that text. So,
PUDs and stuff, yeah, because they really went through with occupations and all this stuff. Yeah.
so it's been at the planning commission at the town level for probably at least 6 months, maybe more. So it's been kind of talked about for a while.
Yeah, I need a motion, Jason.
Yes.
I'll
Motion
make a
to.
motion.
I'll second it.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, so that'll.
Well, my final thing, I just wanted to take in and we'll run it by you guys, so you knew what was going on. But at the end of March, and that we sent out a rural addressing memo. You guys all had this in your packet. We were approached, probably back in January, by the town of West Sweden to go through and correct all their addresses, and that were wrong. They, have ARPA funds like all the towns received, and that's one of the qualified expenses that their attorney had told them that they could do. So town of West Sweden, we've got that done. We changed 61 addresses, and that in exchange for the partnership and that with the town, you know, putting in all these signs and that we take and pay for the ones and that we change. And that because some of them are kind of staff error, I feel, because, and what I'm talking about is that the addresses with like an A or like a suffix behind them. It might be A through G. And so those are the ones and that we're going through and correcting. That's kind of in preparation for the whole next generation 911 platform. And the towns have been really receptive to that because they don't want to buy signs. Always going to go through and change them in the next couple of years anyway. So just the whole purpose behind the memo and that wasn't really to drum up other towns, but to make sure that we were offering and being consistent so that other towns know that we are doing this for other towns. We've done West Sweden now, we've done Clam Falls, we've done Warren, we've done the town of Bone Lake. I've actually got a proposal and that I haven't heard how it went, but it was at the town of Beaver last night. Same thing in that where we were changing a bunch of addresses. And I believe the town of Lincoln is also going to be considering it. So it's kind of a nice way in that to be correcting all of our bad addresses in the county for next generation 911. Marathon County went through it and then said, we're going to do it county-wide. They had a lot of blowback and that town of Rib Mountain ended up suing the county, all that kind of stuff. And they were changing like 20,000 addresses. So we're not unique in this. It's unfortunate that we've got to change any of them. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. So
I said last night at the board meeting, Jason's been a real help, like at the lake associations have been especially worried, you know, like one lady asked a question, well, say 183rd and 181st come into the lake. How is an emergency vehicle going to know that they can't drive from 181st to 187 or 183? This, you know, at the other end of the lake. I mean, it's like, and I explained to them how the addresses actually mean something to the emergency people. Each number represents something and they know exactly where they're going. And because she was convinced it was going to make things worse. And I assured her that it wasn't.
Unfortunately, though, Polk County is not as important in Google's and Bing's and MapQuest eyes as maybe some of our metropolitan areas. So our address changes do take, you know, 2 to 3 months to be updated. And that on like a phone and that to be able to take and find a property. So when we do an address change, we send them a letter saying, here's your existing address, here's your new address. We give them 6 months to change. I would say on all of our address changes, probably 75, 80% are going to call me. And so then I recommend at that time, you know, if you're going to do a driver's license, if you're going to do any important document, order checks, anything that's long-term like that, use your new address for that kind of stuff. Otherwise, wait, you know, 4 to 5 months and that before you really start just changing over your general bills, because then MapQuest and everything will be updated. We do notify and that the power companies or the utilities in our area of any address changes. And we also notify the post office and that when we do it, we actually provide a Excel spreadsheet and that with the name of the property owner, the parcel number, their existing address and their new address to our local post office. And then I believe our local post office refers them down to Madison or Milwaukee area down there to the central headquarters. And they're the ones that actually put it into the system. Because I've had a few calls from down in that area from the post office. So this kind of goes with the email that was in your meeting packet back in February. And that from the postal service that was, you know, telling you about how much problems they have with those A characters and being able to sort. So there's a lot of, you know, discretion to that. I'm not going to lie. But basically in that the way we go through it, we only recommend the mandatory changes, you know, and that to our towns and that the town boards get to review that. And then they come back to us afterwards. And I know in West Sweden and that we changed the 61 addresses. I talked to Chris, their road guy up there yesterday. They've only had 2 people call. So anyway.
And Jason's been really good to work with on this because we get a lot of calls at the town. As soon as people get wind of that, they panic, you know, right away. And I don't want to change. But
we did a fairly large address change out on Deer Lake to Deer Lake Park. People call and they're wondering why, and that, but after you explain and that, then that kind of, helps everything out. So we're gonna still end up going through, and as we are issuing a new address, or we come up to a property and we don't have an address to assign and we need to change something, those are gonna be the ones that we're gonna change in the towns that we're not doing the whole town on. And that, but if the whole town is gonna do it and that, then we go through and correct everything. So a few years ago, Blackbrook, Clear Lake, and Clayton were also done. So our east half of the county is really pretty good. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we'll-
Any extra US reports on that?
Well, Bob and Karsten are setting this presentation up. I wanted to give a little introduction of this presentation and introduce Karsten. While he's working with Bob, I'll save the introduction here for a little bit later. But to give you a little background, you all remember the Planktothrix rubescens issue we were having in 2019 and 2020 with Loveless Lake. And it was a cyanobacteria or blue-green algae bloom that was concerning to a lot of the citizens that lived on that lake. And through that concern, they really became engaged and started looking for places where they could improve water quality, places where they were seeing a lot of erosion, identifying areas of sources of runoff and sediment erosion along the lake and around the lake. And one of the sites was a previous project that we had designed and installed in the mid-90s, 1994 and 95. It was a grass waterway coming down from one of the few agricultural fields in the watershed of Loveless Lake. And we had designed a waterway there and a surface inlet and an underground outlet to handle the water through the development around the shoreline. And that area had since been grown up in trees and through lack of maintenance needed some repair and was showing signs of degrading and erosion and so forth. So this was a site that through some planning and modeling, it showed high levels of phosphorus loading to the lake. And so through this Planktothrix situation, we decided to look a little more closely at that site and do some improvements with the help of the Lake Association. So with that, I'd like to introduce Karsten Peterson. He's our conservation engineering technician and worked a lot with this project. And credit to him, he did a fantastic job improving this site. And we're really fortunate we had a willing landowner to work with as well. It was an agricultural operation that had a few heifers there. They had voluntarily removed those heifers from that site and allowed us to come in and improve on this practice that was designed in the mid-90s. So all in all, it was a great success, and I'll pass the mic to Karsten to share a little bit more about the history and how this project unfolded. So Karsten Peterson.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you. I'm Garsten. Been working here since 2020. Haven't attended a meeting yet, so this is a good start. So, as Eric touched on, these are our conservation best management practices that we install, and this funding is made available through the Wisconsin Department of Ag, and it's a great program, and allows us to help design and implement these best management practices such as water and sediment control basins and grass waterways like you're about to see. And the landowner generally only has to pay 30%, and the Wisconsin Department of Ag pays the 70%. And our department ends up doing all the design, so we're able to help prescribe the best situation for these generally farmers. This particular project, Birdman Farms LLC, work, I guess not, but there we go. There's Balsam Lake over in the corner there, and there's Loveless Lake just out on County Road I, so pretty close to town here. And our initial complaint or concerns at the site, we got a few calls from the neighboring landowners there. As you can kind of see, there is some kind of colored water there. Looks a little scary maybe to someone who hasn't seen it before. And most of that is just some, soil being picked up in the water. So it looks a little darker. And they were very concerned that it was overtopping Reedner Lane. So we went out and we took a look at it during some rain events early in the spring to see what was going on. And after digging and doing some research on it, as Eric mentioned, this was an NRCS project that started in 1994 to put a culvert drop structure underneath Reedner Lane to handle that runoff. And here you can see they're digging right past one of the houses onto Loveless, and that pipe structure outletted right into the lake. And actually there's a house built over top of this culvert now. So we definitely didn't want to touch that thing. So we wanted to leave that in place. Yeah, definitely a cool project. It was fun looking through these old pictures for sure. And here's the project completed in 1995. And you can see the straw mulch on that side over top of the waterway. So they seeded this, and in 1995, probably in 96, it was growing a lot of nice grass there. But the problem was that the landowner sold this property. And so the operation and maintenance plan that was in place for it kind of got thrown out the window with the new landowner. So in 2008, when one of the staff went out there, you really can't see any sort of waterway. It's mostly just, box elder and brush growing there now. And by 2021, it's tough to see that there was ever really a project there. And the problem with this is you get a lot of leaf cover from these trees, and so there's no grass growing on the ground. So it leaves it open to erosion when you get high storm events or high runoff events in the spring. So after meeting with the landowner, the Lake District, and doing a lot of preliminary site investigation, including taking a survey out there to determine the topography, doing some soil borings, and determining the watershed, we were able to determine some of the peak flows that might be received at this area. And after going through some cost feasibility analysis, we were able to settle on a grade stabilization structure. And the diagram on the bottom there shows a simple way it works is some of that water running off from those ag fields would be retained by this embankment, and it would slowly be outletted through that conduit underneath the embankment. And it would address the erosion that was happening there. It would reduce the peak flow runoff that was received at Reedner Lane, so we wouldn't have any problem with overtopping the road. And it would in turn reduce nutrients reaching Loveless Lake, as phosphorus was the main concern. And so we bid out the project, got a contractor selected, and in November had the project, in November the project started. So here you can see the contractor taking the topsoil off, removing some of those trees, and getting the grass waterway back to its original state. Here you can see the contractor seeding the waterway once we have a nice trapezoidal shape of the waterway running down towards Reedner Lane. The seed mixture there was selected. It's pretty common for grass waterways, a good way to slow down the water, promote infiltration, provide a little bit of habitat for wildlife as well, but mostly keep that soil in place through the root structure of the grass. And another way to help prevent any erosion before this seed gets established is erosion control blanket. So here we rolled out three long rolls of that throughout the bottom of the waterway. It would be great to have erosion control blanket on the entire site, but cost doesn't make sense. So the best bang for your buck is right in the bottom of the channel. Here we can see the next step is preparing the subgrade for laying our pipe structure. You can see the marks in the soil there. They excavated out an area and then compacted it at the grades that we set with survey equipment. So the pipe would be running at the correct grade. And here you can see the pipe in place. On the right side, we've got some anti-seep diaphragms, which is just a big rubber membrane. And there's a design standard for these pipes to have those in as to prevent water from flowing alongside the pipe if there's any seepage through the embankment. They're a little bit cumbersome to put in. Contractors don't really like them. And they probably work, but not really sure because you don't see it. So they're buried, but they go in anyway. And once the pipe's correctly in place, start constructing that embankment. Here you can see the excavator going, a sheep's foot compactor running across the embankment. That soil needs to be hit every approximately 9 inches of fill that they put on the embankment for this soil type, just to make sure that there's no seepage going through the embankment and decreases the possibility for failure. Along with the help of the landowner, once we were finished with the embankment, got everything seeded down and then used a bale grinder to put mulch over the entire site, which went pretty well. And the landowner was a big help for that. So then after they were done, this is how it looks like. So just about every piece of soil is covered with some mulch, which helps for late fall rain events, or even in the spring, that freeze-thaw cycle ends up binding some of that straw mulch to the soil for that seed to get established quicker. And here you can see the top of the embankment, and that is the top of our pipe structure there with a trash guard around it to prevent any large debris from flowing into it. And there's, on the right, there's a black metal plate above the pipe, and that's an anti-vortex baffle that prevents any swirling of the water above the pipe and allows for a larger inflow there. And there's actually a small concrete pad poured. It's covered with straw in that picture. We were in, as you can see, December 1st there, a little late in the season for this project, but once it started, you kind of have to finish these. So we had some straw over the concrete to help insulate it so it was set a little bit better. And here I've got a video. I don't know if I might have to click in the bottom left corner of that. Yeah. So this is this spring, actually, March. And so we've got some snow melt up top, and you can see it functioning pretty well. It's hitting the rocks that we placed at the bottom. And all these rocks were found on site, actually right in there. So it's probably old field rock that a farmer had buried there. So it worked out pretty good. And you see it kind of takes a cut over to the right, but it finds its way right back to the middle. This site here is designed for a 10-year rain event. And during runoff, you're probably not seeing quite as much rain as you might see in a 10-year, 24-hour storm. But either way, these warm days in the spring, the snow melt, you're still seeing a lot of water flow through there. So. Yeah. And so here's the erosion control blanket. You can see it's working very well. You've got a lot of water running over it, but it's not moving at all. And so that seed that's underneath there, that seed that's underneath the blanket is well protected. We're not losing any sediment in this case. And it helps a little bit that it was frozen. There's some weight of the snow on there, but I think it performed very well. And here's the last video, right down at the bottom, the old drop structure. You can see a pretty clear water that's being received by that. Definitely clearer than before, and a lot of it too. So I feel pretty confident that some of that erosion that was happening, some of that sediment being transported, isn't happening as much anymore, and you can see that right in the water clarity in this video. So thank you. Are there any questions at all?
It's nice to see start to finish.
Yeah, and it took about less than a year from the time we got the first call about it to design, bid, and construct. So I think that's pretty good as timelines go for our department there.
This will just get better too, as that site establishes with vegetation. You know, it'll be stable. And the key to this project now is to continue that maintenance plan. We don't want to have trees grow up in that waterway area, because that was the problem before. Once those box elders came in, there was no ground cover and we started seeing erosion again. Well, we've got a pretty robust maintenance plan in this project now, and identified people to carry out that maintenance plan, so we shouldn't have trees impeding on our waterway this time.
And it's interesting because to realize maintenance is important for things like this too. It isn't just facilities and, you know, where we tend to sometimes push maintenance too, but it's nice to see that you've got a plan in place.
Many of these projects, there's a lot of them that were built in the mid to late 90s, and we're now seeing a need for maintenance on many of them. We've cleaned out many water control sediment basins here in the last probably 4 or 5 years, and we'll continue to see that too. So it's that time, you know, 25 to 30 years later, we go in and have to maintain these structures.
And the minimum maintenance period for these is generally 10 years, but with good operation and maintenance, you can see 25, 30, 50 years out of some of these structures. So
It pays to maintain.
absolutely.
Change of ownership, see a lot of that falls out of the sight of everybody. That's the worst part of it.
And the one good thing about this one, the end up cost of the project hit a threshold that it had to be recorded on the deed, so that it will be passed along to any new owner. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
How big of a watershed of that is that controlled?
Just over 14 acres.
Okay,
And
so
for that type, it ends
Yeah.
up being 17 cubic feet per second that hits that area with the embankment.
So the outlet pipe was what, a 6-inch?
It was an 8-inch. Yep. And so that ends up,
Quite a bit of water.
yeah, it kicks out about 5 cubic feet per second. So you've got about a 70% reduction. Controls the flow.
That pipe was a pretty needed addition to this project, because it'll control the flow to the point where we won't see the erosion that we saw without that structure. So that pipe and that embankment, that was all a new addition to that waterway that was built in the mid-90s. So, and it was much needed to help control the flow.
So you guys go out and do like, so we saw like the first portion of this now. Will you go out and do like more of the filming type stuff, how it's progressing?
I would like to, yeah, and once you get it throughout the spring, I need to see that the seed is established, just to make sure the project is fully completed. But I think that, a yearly inspection of these is good, a good thing. There are problems that happen. There's settlement of soil. So it's good to notice that. Sometimes landowners might not know if there's a problem. So I think that a yearly inspection of most of these projects is pretty important for our department.
Interesting for us even to see what it's done in a year, like at the end of this year, see how it's grown and, been maintained kind of.
Sure. Yeah. They applied for them grants, get 700 out to do all kinds of waterways and stuff. So those will be interesting to see too. We're at that stage where instead of a study, they're actually going out.
Doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, the LiDAR will help on that, won't it?
LiDAR would be helpful.
It's gonna cut your surveying in it.
That's huge. Actually, there are some sites that we wouldn't need to have staff time to go out and survey with the LiDAR. It's a
With the
huge,
LiDAR, you can do it,
huge
yeah.
help.
Without even having to go out there, you can already
And it's,
assess it.
a lot of times in some sites, our survey equipment won't get good reception, or we can't see because of tree coverage or satellite coverage, what have you. We can use that LiDAR to go in and dummy in the points that we missed.
Sure.
And it's a huge help.
That'll save a lot.
Right.
Yes, Bob.
Just in closing, could you talk a little bit, Eric or Karsten, about the riparian owners on Loveless, their reaction and support of this project?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So the riparian owners really came together, as I said earlier, about becoming engaged to figure out what their water quality problem was and identify sites to fix. And they had a big movement. They fundraised, they engaged other citizens. They really did a lot to improve the water quality on their lake. And obviously it's going to take some time, but their efforts were seen pretty immediately with this project, because they actually raised the funds to cover the landowners 30% on this project. So there was no cost to the landowner for this project. And we found that, we have a higher likelihood of a landowner hosting a project like this if it's paid for. And so that's kind of the approach that we try and take. And if the lake associations or lake districts are willing and able to put some skin in the game, so to speak, we have a higher likelihood of implementing these projects.
Well, you see how much water comes through that pipe? That's a lot of water going into that lake. And look how much cleaner it is. So that's a huge thing to have on the video anyways.
It'll take time to see any results, obviously, but I mean, there's pretty immediate results here, even since it's not established with vegetation, the water is cleaner and it's not actively eroding. And so it's an improvement.
This one ended up being, it was a little under $20,000 total cost. Yep, as the bid price went. We got other bids that were much higher, but we take the lowest responsible bidder. So,
I was expecting much more.
and even this year, it might even be a little bit more with, project, cost changes and everything, but yeah, about 20 grand.
Can I ask you another question? With redistricting, now I'm on Lake Board, and only that. And that's one of the worst, they say one of the worst lakes around as far as health. Somewhere it's bad. Well, the straight river runs in. Goes out in the south. My mind is say that you should keep the lake clean. But it's wrong.
So,
It's quite a general question. I was going to come in and see what you guys find out.
Yeah, that's okay. Big Round Lake does have its water quality issues. There is a sizable watershed there that's contributing. And I know that group has convened to apply for a pretty large scale trim grant for an alum treatment.
They are, that was in the discussion.
Yep, so they're working on tying that phosphorus up with that treatment. It's kind of a more shallow system with a large watershed, so it has a fair amount of.
But shallow here.
But yeah, we can talk about that lake at a later date at length.
That'd be great. Look at this. Bring it back. Yeah, talk to Kate. Financing the project.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. That's
It's
great.
interesting.
Does Eric bring the Lake District stuff back, or do you do it?
I'm gonna bring that at the next
At the
meeting.
next meeting,
Yeah,
okay.
those appointments.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Sure.
Have some volunteers too as well.
Which is good.
But yeah, you all will have to recommend those appointments to the full county.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank
That
you.
was good.
Chairman O'Connell, I'd like to thank you for bringing up the trim grant, the large scale trim grant. That was submitted last Wednesday or Thursday, actually. No, on the 14th, so last Thursday. We have 12 grassway projects identified if we receive award of that grant. That was, we had come to this committee and the full county board for the cost share, the county's portion, which you approved your resolution. So hopefully we'll hear about that award later this summer. And I just want to acknowledge the staff. We've never taken on such a large grant application before because, well, one, there's a lot of projects out there, and two, we've noticed we have several new young folks now in Land and Water. We've had some turnover, and they have a lot of energy and they want to make a difference. So I want to just share that with you, and I hope we get the grant. We'll be
I
very,
hope
very
so too.
active over the next 3 years.
There's quite a bit of stuff that can be done.
So, for my piece is the update on the comprehensive trail network plan. We do have an intergovernmental cooperative agreement with the city of St. Croix Falls. Did I put that in the packets? I don't know if I did.
Don't think so.
I don't think so. It was originally on the general government agenda in March, but that meeting got canceled. So it'll be on the general government committee in May here. It's really just an agreement. It's a best practice to have a written agreement between two new units of government for the project. They are confirming they'll build a 2-room bathroom facility, a bicycle repair station. They're going to work with DOT on a more direct alignment across 35. They're going to expand the parking lot to the west. They're taking out that green space and sidewalk towards 35. They're going to improve the signage and wayfinding and take care of all the related engineering costs. This is the one project in the comprehensive trail network plan that requires, it's not on county property, so it's on city property. So basically what we're doing in a nutshell is confirming we're going to contribute $150,000, which was allocated through the budget, the park CIP for this project. And so we'll meet with them and their plan commission on design standards, and coincidentally, I think I told you this before, they're building 2 other bathrooms, public bathrooms in the city right now. So it's, for them, it's the year of public bathrooms. So it's really lined up really well. So again, I just wanted to share that with you. Some other updates are, well, the parking lot on the Gandy in the village of Milltown. We presented Karsten did the design actually in 2 different options in the abandoned right-of-way, which is state property. They chose the more southern, actually the north end concept, which is closer to Highway 35 and 3rd Street. We do have to go, Tim and I will go to the village board meeting on May 9th to get their feedback. It's really just a good idea just to make sure we're all on board. We will do some improvements to the kiosk, but basically it's just a gravel park. So we're going to reach out to them, make sure, talk to Mo. He doesn't have it scheduled yet, but we do want to learn what days are problematic for the village, because, you know, of course, they have fisherman days, other events.
That's right, Milltown then, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll park, we go there, I've walked that trail, we'll try to park, and there is no parking now, so it's nice.
You know where the kiosk is?
Yeah.
We had 2 options, one by the kiosk. We thought that would be
Yeah.
the better option because it was higher, closer to Main Street, so higher economic impact. But the public works crew wanted more to the south. They think it'd be better used there. So there's that. We're planners. So if you're interested, this is called a Gantt chart. It's a project management tool. So here's the 15 projects. We have a schedule for all of the projects. And obviously, it's on our SharePoint, so we share with Bo and Rod and their team, and so we collectively keep it updated, and it's a way to keep on task and ensure we're all on the same page. We put that together. Ben Affelt and Tim are working on a signage plan. for all the parks and trails. We've been out on the loop and they're doing work on the loop this last week as well, the loop in Sterling. There are some signage issues. I personally feel that way. And there's a lack of mile markers and fire numbers, so we're gonna clean that up too. There's one intersection, a bear track that's malfunction junction is what I call it. It's just too much signage, so we're going to look at a kiosk or some way signage there.
Question about signs. Does the county do anything with historic markers?
Sorry,
Historic markers, you know?
I always wondered that too. Those old ones, like you see, this is the home of
Yeah,
Prairie School or
yeah.
whatever.
Century Farms. yeah.
Century Farms and that kind of historic markers.
Does anyone know the answer to that? Because those have been around forever and
But someone
Yeah,
called me
ones
about, there's an area down in St. Clair Falls that the trailer park that's down along the river, and that used to be called something. I forget what, but there was a historic sign there, but now it kind of disappeared in the winter. They don't know if it got plowed over or whatever. But the lady that called me,
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, but that question came up someplace else.
yeah, and I can't.
And
I
we
couldn't
don't have a
answer
history of
Doing anything.
doing those signs. It's up to the, whatever group is sponsoring that historical site. Historical Society.
Yeah.
Well, there are people that have volunteered. I guess the Boy Scouts used to do something at one point. And then there's somebody that used to be the Historical Society president that has taken it upon himself to work on some of those. But it's all just, it's not like a coordinated effort or anything. But I thought, I will ask, and see.
I look at our fire tower, what we want to take it down. It was a group out of Massachusetts historical that wanted to not remember to get that tower
Oh,
down.
my gosh.
We couldn't take the tower down, the fire tower, because it was historic. And that was somebody from Massachusetts. Forgot. Ask Steve Geiger. Maybe that was if you were not here yet.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But we had a battle. We get a letter from somebody from Massachusetts that you can't take it down. It's historic, if you remember.
They lost.
The fire tower, yeah.
Yeah, they
'Cause that's, I was gonna just go cut it down. When what? I mean, so that's how bizarre it is on the historical stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
because who does the historical waterway? St. Clair Falls is in that.
Yeah.
Watertown. So it would have to be through the city and through a historical society. Osceola has that too. And sometimes the signs appear, sometimes they don't.
yeah.
Right.
And some of the Century Farms, I think some of the farmers themselves. put them up.
Yeah, that would be more on the farmer himself, but
Wouldn't put
you're
it
right,
on.
like, I know down McCreary Lake, we got the Pineville Post Office up north of town on. 50th Avenue. Yeah, who maintains them? Because there's gotta be a list somewhere.
Well, we have lists at the museum of all the historic markers in
The
the
little-
county. But,
Where the little schools are, used to be and
Yeah.
stuff, there's
Yeah,
signs.
but there is nobody designated at the museum, historical society that, I mean, we have, they don't have any funds to do that. So it's all just been volunteer stuff that people do on their own.
I'll nominate Vince to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the rule is if nobody knows what to do with it, the county does. right?
I think we had a cemetery that way.
Yeah.
Cemetery that way. We gave it back to Lincoln, so we're good now. We gotta remember to be careful.
So it's kind of like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, what? Yeah,
Anyway, I thought I'd ask if anybody knew anything about that.
I think it's each individual, because like Johnny
I
Peel,
would think.
say where the fair was in
Yeah.
Farmington, they have a sign up. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farmington people do it.
Like all the old schools have their.
All the schools,
Yeah.
if you can remember where the one house,
Yeah.
yeah, the schoolhouses. So it'd be that, so it's almost like a church group that did most of it,
Yeah, so it's
because they
just,
kept the records back then.
it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, you go to
Whatever
each
area
church and they have more history of those than you really.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And all I really know about that site, Hamilton,
Uh-huh.
is that used to be an Indian settlement.
The what?
Indian settlement,
Oh,
American settlement.
yeah, yeah.
And believe it or not, I recall ex-supervisor Pritchard, he's pretty active with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, he is. Yeah.
It's not,
Actually, the lady that called me had, our,
already talked to
Yeah.
people.
really did never.
We're almost done, Joe.
That's good.
Yeah, I reached out to 3 stakeholder groups regarding their trails on county lands. We're meeting with equestrian folks. Summers, we have that scheduled. Summers Lake. And so we're gonna try meeting with all 3 groups collectively and then subsequently meeting them out on site, which we would determine where they're interested in building and punching the trail. So we're working on that. We re-released the ATV intensive park RFP. Questions from consultants closes this Friday. We've already had a couple conversations with some local consultants, and the RFP for that closes on May 12th.
So now you had a few people at least interested.
We have 2 consultants interested now.
Oh.
We extend the timeline. That was the issue. If you recall, we didn't get
Too
into
short a
it.
time.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Good. That'll be good.
And then lastly, and I know Kim, you were there, we attended the Tourism Council did that workshop on marketing or developing strategies for tourism. It was facilitated by UW La Crosse. I made contact with that professor who was the lead facilitator, and we're going to send him a lot of the data we collected in developing the comprehensive trail network plan. If you recall, Alta did that mapping exercise, the online tool. We're going to send him a lot of shape files, a lot of data. So I offered to send it to him. I reached out to him, and perhaps he can use that data as well. If you recall at that session, they asked a lot about, where it's desirable. Yeah.
Were you gonna do the one for the complex study too, that one sent to them also?
Complex.
Yeah, where the sports complex that we looked at. That's
Yeah, I haven't talked to him yet.
That had marketing in it too.
Yeah, that market analysis. We'll talk to him. And that is roughly everything in the an update regarding the comprehensive trail network plan.
Okay. Hey, Bob, did we ever put the RFP out for the study on the Gandy?
We have not. It is done. It's ready to be released. We are basically waiting for the litigation to be decided before we do release.
That was yesterday and nothing got
Right. You want to speak on that, Vince?
done.
Yeah, I think I can give you my interpretation that he had a hearing, but it was more, he fully realizes that he's got all the information he can handle, and he realizes that he has to start making decisions. That's basically all that was completed at that point.
He did say he wants to make a decision concurrently on both the temporary restraining order and the larger issue.
On the stuff. So basically, he said he's finally has to read it. He hasn't read it yet. So he's only had this much time. He hasn't read it
He
yet.
did acknowledge that. He knows he needs to make a decision.
Yes.
I heard that. Did you hear that, Joe?
Yeah.
I heard that. Basically, I didn't read it yet and do it, so I better do it right. Stop and do it.
Oh,
Wow.
God.
Andy, they talked about Stellar.
Yeah, so why are we holding off on the Gandy? The study on the Gandy?
Well, I think given the urgent, that maybe is there that much urgency to do it now when we might get a ruling from this judge, which might preclude what we decide to go ahead and do with the game. So let's wait another month or two, see what they say.
Stellar. You're waiting on the Stellar to see if it has
Yeah.
repercussions on the end.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
I didn't say I agreed with it. I get it.
I'm on your page.
Go date certain.
Huh?
May. It goes out.
Yeah,
Because the judge could be a year, could be like the DNR. could
Yeah,
be
he
3
didn't
years.
give us a timeline. when it's
No, he
gonna be
did not.
decided.
But it could be like the DNR says, we'll get back to you. And then 3 years says, well, do what you want. And they
They
can't
might
tell.
get back.
Yeah, so that was a 3-year mess. Yeah.
This is an ongoing evaluation. But I mean, I think even the judge was embarrassed yesterday, even though he
Should
tried
be.
to say, I think
Yeah.
he's studying this. I think I
Wow.
think he realizes he has to make a decision.
So when's the next time they meet?
It's time to read and do it. He didn't set a date.
We did not
I
say.
didn't hear a date.
He said no dates.
Okay.
So what'll happen is like the DNR, he'll retire by the time it's done. Be a restart. That's what the DNR, hold on us. They've been there for 2 years, then he retires and goes, well, he's gone. We don't know what we're gonna do. Unbelievable, but it happens. Okay,
What judge is this?
Judge Black,
Where's it from?
take care of it. County.
Or Sacred.
Don't blame it on safety falls.
Yeah, sorry.
Not yet.
We, on our work plan, it says tax deed listings in April. Do we have to do anything with that?
I don't know. That was Amanda's schedule. I have to reach out to her. If you want, we could transition into agenda item number 13.
We should, yes.
Caitlin will be here from Land and Water to present aquatic invasive and terrestrial invasive species, some of their work on that, those issues. So similar to Karsten, we're having another staff person come and present on May 4th. We do have a rezone, Scott Lee,
Scott Lee. Yep.
Lincoln. So there's that. There'll be a public hearing scheduled for March 4th. I'll look into the tax deed listings. Also in our work plan, we have the fee schedule review. I could put that on the 4th as well. If we do all of those agenda items and nothing emerges, revolves between now and then, May 18th is looking really light.
For the second one. Yeah.
Content for agenda.
Yeah. So then we might just do that month by the first meeting. And then if it's light, we'll not have the second.
Would you like to?
So it's because then we shouldn't have that's why we have to have the public hearings maybe on the first, so we don't have just a meeting for a public hearing.
Yep.
We don't have.
So you'd like to try to put all those agenda items on the 4th then?
I would think so. I mean, if it gets a little longer, it gets a little longer, but I think the tax deed was just in the paper the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think they had to have at least
Yeah, we don't
twice.
I saw Amanda yesterday and she was very pleased with.
How much came back in after
Yeah,
that?
and there were a couple of properties and she said, but both of them have agreed and they're starting to make small payments, which would.
Because I mean, the last time there was only 50. It used to be 100 and something. Now it's down to 50. Now it's even getting less. So
Good thing.
hopefully, oh gosh, yes. But she could at least give us an update of where it's at because it's been 2 years. We've had to skip it.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic.
Yeah, going forward, we'll remove agenda item number 5 for the rules of order amendments from last night.
Yeah, number 5 can come on. So now that we should kind of decide. Didn't our rules of order say we're not taking virtual public comments and so that people kind of know that? And then we'd have to make sure that's stated in our agendas here. And stuff that it's known.
Written or in person, right? We're accepting.
Is that what we're email ones and stuff? Is that how that was?
All our other committees doing it.
All the other committees don't allow virtual comments. They have to be in here written. This was the only one that was still asking if there was anybody on.
Okay. So then we should conform so that it's uniform. With
Yeah,
all
and we
of
can
them.
put that on the cover sheet that goes on the agendas.
I would think we do that for a while.
We
so
just don't
everybody
put them on
knows.
these ones, but usually they're online with the cover sheet.
Okay. All right. What else changed for us on that? That's about it for us here.
The ordinances. We don't
Well, Justin, can.
Justin can vote.
Justin
We
can
kind of
vote.
let him anyway. We just didn't tell him it didn't count. He thought he was voting, but he really was. It didn't count.
I heard that discussion last night.
We fought for him.
Yeah, staff didn't want you to vote, but we overruled it.
I heard that. I recognized that.
Because the last time I told him how to vote, he voted against.
I don't know if you've seen some of that Land Plus Water. Occasionally you guys get those emails, right?
Yeah.
And in some one county down south, it's a problem. Where the FSA representative is maybe a maverick. And he's got voting rights and they wish they didn't allow that. He's not an elected official. So I'm just,
But that's false, because technically I am an elected official, not through the county, but I am
Yeah,
voted
no.
in.
He is
FSA
voted.
board.
but he's voting on county policy.
Right, I get it.
We'll keep him in rein. We'll rein him in a little bit.
Those emails, are interesting. And I'll tell you, what I got on one of those emails, they had a silent auction for something. And so I went online and looked at the stuff they had for sale. So I bid on a few things and then they send you an email if somebody bids higher than you, and then you go back and bid again. I now have a signed Packer football, and the Land and Water paid for the shipping to ship it to my house.
Gotcha.
It worked like it. And then I talked to the county each county can put things up for bid. And the county, I forget what county it was, well, it was the guy who used to work over here. And so he said all kinds of nice things about you guys and zoning and stuff, or Land and Water, and working with you guys over there. So
Jeremy.
But he didn't want to
I
stay
can't-
working.
I
here.
have-
From Russ County?
I can't,
Russ County?
I think it
Oh,
was,
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
That's where-
Yeah, that's where it is.
yeah, that's exactly
It
what
would
it
have
was.
been Jeremy.
Yeah.
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 So we talked a little bit on the phone, and then he sent my Packer football to me.
Who's the
Oh, we
autograph
missed
by?
him.
Which players? Do you remember?
I don't know, I didn't look at that.
I just want it.
I'm saving it for the museum.
Somebody scribbled all over a football.
Yeah, why I do it now. Whole bunch of straight lines on the football. That's a
Yeah, somebody
signature.
scribbled all over it. So do we have, Vince, do you have any updates for us that we have to do any budget stuff, basically, or volunteer? Do you want to ask us now who's on those committees to help move that on whilst we're here?
Which committees?
Well, like I'm on revolving loan, so I would stay on that.
On which one?
Revolving loan. Oh, revolving loan, I mean, would you want to, we're here, do you want to grab the people now or come in individually to do it, or? You know if there's any other ones that we have to have? Somebody from this
I
committee,
just know the Lake District guys will be deciding that,
that'll be next week.
but I'm not sure about Polk revolving loan, one county board member.
So do we let Bob know about the Lake District?
Yes,
I mean, I want your lake.
Yeah, the
we'll
revolving,
get the list, and he's gonna bring
I
our
have the
Lake
list.
District list back.
They have some outgoing, the
Yeah.
supervisors. There's only really 2 or 3 districts that need representation.
Oh,
We've got a couple volunteers.
The Cedar Lake was Joe Demling, that would be a big one,
mhm,
otherwise the other one,
Friends,
or Joe Demling.
Yes, Peter.
Wapo, Bear Trap,
Yeah.
Friends, not so, and I think Jean, last night she
Yeah,
expressed
she-
interest
yeah, she-
on
Interest on those. But I'm on revolving loan, so I would stay on that.
yeah, you can stay on it, but that's appointed by the chair, no confirmation. So we'll tell the chair, Jay. that you want
Okay,
This
I
one.
was just wondering if we got 5 of us here,
If you have a-
we're on things that want to be appointed.
We do have a Gandy Dancer Trail Committee.
Oh, I have that one.
Pardon?
I have that one started as something that might be interesting.
Yeah, it's appointed by the chair, county board confirms Mike Pritchard was it, so that has expired.
PTAG.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to get somebody.
P-TAG, you might want to, that's appointed by the chair as well, confirmed by the board, but you all may want to have input, or suggestions or something like that.
Well, probably one of us shouldn't be on it because we're gonna get it from them.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
What about the museum? It's not on this list, and I'm appointed to that.
yeah, it's on,
The museum is?
yeah, Polk County, I'm sorry, Polk County Tourism.
No, it's not.
Okay, so we need to add the museum.
What if I want to give up one?
Yeah, just let me know and or the chairman. And which one, like, are you thinking?
West Central Regional Planning.
Okay.
I
So
wanna-
we should have a committee of the whole at the full board to go through this, but people should start going through it to catch up, so we kind of know what's.
I want to stay on
open.
ADRC, but I want to give up the West Central Regional Planning. It conflicts with my town board stuff. It's
Yeah.
on the same day. So I
That's fine.
just,
Sound like we had someone interested last night possibly. Or somebody.
For West Central, yeah,
Yeah.
on that too, yeah. There was
And
something.
that also has Harry Hauer and
Warno.
Steve Warno.
But if there is a possibility, could I maybe do Arnell?
Yes.
Because
Bingo.
Arnell was Fran, correct?
Plan. But if I could do Arnell, that would be awesome. I mean, it depends, it's gonna be, for me, it depends on what day it is and what time it is, but
So I will let Mr. Luke know that. I think that one is also appointed by the chair. Is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
that's, I mean, that's.
because we haven't
fine.
had a dog clinic in about how many years since we got away from the law now.
Why?
Not in the 6 years I've been
We
here.
haven't had it.
ADRC on that, I want to stay on that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the town chair. They figured that out.
Oh.
Good. Think of anything else that we have to, we're pretty good there.
Yeah, I think what we said last night is just let myself or Jay, probably just let me know and I'll keep track of it and I'll roll it out to Jay. And then we'll have the process down next month at the board meeting to say,
Here's what we need, here's what's open, here's what
and
isn't.
so if you know of anybody else on any committee that says, hey, I'd like to be involved in the housing authority or something like that, just have them come talk to me. Sure. I'll just write it down. And Jay, there's some of the citizen ones I appoint. And it's weird. Some of them have to be approved by the board. Some of them don't. It's just historical. That's what you, now the Lake District, though, that was interesting. Is I remember 2 years ago, the chair or somebody at the board just said, okay, who's ever in that district gets that Lake District. And if you don't want to do it, get somebody else. We actually saw state statute that says it has to come through this committee and then approved by the.
And it did come through our committee, and that's how we decided to do it, because
Yeah.
there's people like me without one.
Right.
Why should I go to Balsam Lake and tell them how to run and get voting rights out there at Lake? That was just crazy.
Well, and I kind of feel that way too, because I have, what, 3 or 4 in my district? And it's like, I can't make that upper, I mean, I can do Magner, I can do Horseshoe, but the Pike Lake area
That's far away.
is like, I mean,
So there
I
might-
literally can't, I mean, I'm spread too
But I mean,
thin.
if we had voting rights, I mean, they come and they want to do that, oh, I go, yeah, vote for it. They gotta come up with $1 million. Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I'm
that's,
voting on it, that's what our scary
that's the
part
trouble. I
was.
mean, all I've got is Largan Lake, but I've got voting rights and it's like, what do I want voting rights at Largan Lake?
Yeah,
You know, it's fine if it's a 5-0 vote, but if it's 3-2, I don't really,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't really want to be the 3 when I, you
Everybody
know,
on
I
the
got no
lake
skin
has
in
to
the
spend the
game.
money.
We can't appoint someone else. It's
So
not
that's
a supervisor.
That's what we did then. So that's how we got around it, because I was supposed to go in.
Did you do that with Pike Lake for me when I said I couldn't do,
Mhm, 2 years ago,
yeah,
I believe so.
so they do have a representative.
I believe so, but let me confirm that. How about this? For those of you who are on Lake District or appointed to them, I'll reach out to you prior to the next meeting to see what you think about representing or not. And if we need to find a
I mean, I can do those too, but I mean, when I get up into that other, I'm like. I feel out
Well,
of
it just
place,
gets-
you know what I'm saying? I know about my ones around me, Horseshoe and Agner, but
Mhm.
when I get up into that other, I'm like,
But that's contentious, because I was supposed to do Balsam Lake, get like home grips out and stuff. So they said, well, you just follow them around.
oh. No.
Why would I,
Yeah,
and go to the
yeah.
meetings like that? I just, no,
Yeah.
and then have voting rights. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
that just didn't seem right. That's.
I'll reach out
We
to all of
switched
you
that
that are
around
on
that way.
Lake Association and see what you think. And I'll bring a list. I'll offer up a list at
What
the
is it,
next meeting.
15 district? 15? It was 15 or 16, or Magner got added, so it'll be 16.
Maybe 16.
Maybe 16 Magner.
I just-
What Lake District is here in then?
Conservancy.
I wish I had the list in front of me. I just looked at it yesterday. I looked at,
That's fine. You can
but I'll bring,
You don't know all that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't. I know Doug goes through all of them.
What it is.
I mean, I go to mine, that other upper, whatever.
I'll reach out to you.
I just tell them I won't deal with anything financial.
I mean, that's the almost.
Yeah, I don't vote on
decide that
stuff
what you
either.
would, yeah, because that's pretty, I just went, boom.
Like their lake dues and all that stuff. I just say, yeah, that's not for me.
You just double it, and then they'll throw you out.
I'm the clerk, so I gotta deal with it on the other end then.
Yeah, they'll throw you out. Yeah. I do. Okay,
You good?
I think so, I can't,
Oh, come on.
Hopefully,
I'm
what
sure
else?
he's lame. Come on, you
I make a
guys.
motion. We adjourn.
I'll second it.
and there's no debate, so all those in favor say aye.
All those against?
So now the two.